Hello, welcome back. Come for a visit to the Lady Lever with me. The movement began in Britain as a reaction against the Industrial Revolution's poor quality mass-produced items and the dehumanising conditions of factory work. William Morris is the primary figure, with influential thinkers like John Ruskin and designers like Philip Webb and Arthur H. McMurdo. Proponents aim for beauty and functionalism, in everyday objects, advocating for the unity of design and craftsmanship. The term arts and crafts was coined in 1887 by T.J. Cobden Sanderson, although the movement had been developing for roughly 2 decades prior. Styles often included simple, rustic or medieval influenced forms, natural motifs like plants or folklore, exposed beams, built-in furniture and a focus on materials like wood and textiles. Morris & Co., founded in 1861, was the movement's commercial phase, producing handcrafted wallpaper, jewellery, furniture and stained glass. While starting in Britain, it heavily influenced American design, including the Craftsman style popularised by Gustav Stickley. Advocates believed better design could improve life. It impacted fashion by encouraging looser, less restrictive clothing that broke Victorian constraints. The movement is considered a major forerunner to modern design, directly influencing subsequent styles like Art Nouveau and Modernism. Have nothing in your houses that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful. On to the women. Embroidery and sewing, previously considered polite home hobbies, were elevated to professional art forms. May Morris, manager of Morris & Co.'s embroidery department, was a leading figure in this shift. Women established their own groups to foster professional growth, such as the Women's Guild of Arts, founded in 1907 by May Morris, and the Society of Lady Artists. May Morris was the manager of Morris & Co. embroidery department and an educator and a renowned designer and author. Mary Seton Watts created the Watts Chapel and founded a pottery that produced terracotta garden pots and unique symbolic and devotional figures. The MacDonald sisters, Frances and Margaret, pioneering Glasgow-based artists known for their original ethereal style. Clara Driscoll designed iconic lamps for Tiffany Studios. Marion Mahoney Griffin, a pioneering American architect and key figure in the Chicago arts and crafts scenes. The movement provided new, respected avenues for female employment. For example, Henry Dalton's Lambeth Pottery in London employed over 300 women in the late 19th century. Women made massive contributions to bookbinding, jewellery design and particularly interior arts like embroidery, stained glass and textile design. In Scotland, women's work gained significant prominence, with figures such as Kathleen Veitch becoming early female architects and Jessie Newberry teaching influential embroidery techniques at the Glasgow School of Art. Many women used the movement to create alternative careers and lifestyles, with some involved in social activism such as the suffragette movement, using craft to support their causes, which now is echoed in modern craftivism. May Morris was a master of needlework, specialising in detailed nature-inspired embroidery, often featuring stylised flowers and vines such as the honeysuckle design, which was previously misattributed to her father. In 1885, she became the director of the embroidery department at Morris & Co., overseeing production of intricate altar cloths, cushions and curtains. In 1907, because women were excluded from the Art Workers Guild, she co-founded the Women's Guild of Arts. She studied at the National Art Training School, later the Royal College of Art, and later taught and lectured on design and embroidery in the UK and USA. Active in the socialist movement, she helped establish a branch of the Women's Institute in her village of Kelmscott and supported women's rights. After her father's death, she edited 24 volumes of his collected works and preserved his legacy, notably at Kelmscott Manor. May's work is currently recognised as central to the arts and crafts movement, moving beyond the shadow of her father to be recognised for her own achievements. Right, let's go to the exhibition. This is in the Lady Lever Gallery in Port Sunlight on the Wirral. I won't read every single word, I'll let you pause the video to read if you wish. However, it's giving background to May Morris and her career and the William Morris Society and Company and arts and craft movement more generally. I'm always fascinated by the arts and craft movement, and it's it's a school of design that I'm really into. So as soon as I heard that there was a May Morris exhibition, artistically, historically, and as a woman, I was extremely interested to come. The May Morris exhibition's going to tour the country. In fact, when we were in Cambridge, one of the volunteers at the Fitzwilliam Museum was saying that they were going to get a May Morris exhibition later in the year. This is about her childhood, and she's a younger daughter of William Morris and his wife Jane Burden. She had a sister called Jenny, and they grew up in their parents' artistic circle of friends and their families sharing many of the same hobbies and interests. She enjoyed art, literature, medievalism. Her mother loved poetry, music and needlecraft, and that has really influenced May Morris going forwards. And as she says herself in the quote, "Through my family, we lived ostensibly in London. We were never really town birds. Country life was always to us the natural and happy thing, and those countryside floral, bird life, wildlife motifs are central to May's work." So you can see that she really does mean that with the way that her entire career was clearly inspired by countryside pursuits. Here are various artifacts from the exhibition, many that May embroidered herself and designed herself. There were a lot of really interesting and beautiful items. I loved that copper plate at the top there. It was really interesting to see sketchbooks and designs and drawings that she made herself. Embroidery is the first thing that I learned. I sat beside my mother at her embroidery frame and watched the needle come down and begged to be allowed to fasten the thread. You can tell how much May just loved all forms of embroidery. By the time she was 23, she was appointed manager of Morris & Co.'s embroidery workroom. This was based at Kelmscott House. And she married a fellow socialist called Henry Halliday Sparling in 1890. May recruited embroiderers through social networks, so artists, writers, and like-minded people. And she was always looking to give people the chance for an apprenticeship, especially working class girls from a local school, which, given the fact that they received training, pay, and had better working rights than usual, this was massive for those girls, for their futures and for their families. As someone who comes from working class roots myself, I really appreciate when children are given that first leg up in life to be able to achieve. Here are various designs that May made. A lot of botanicals. Beautiful use of colour. Various wallpapers as well as embroideries. And we'll recognise a lot of them today with the revival and trend in homewares with Morris designs. I really loved seeing the drawings and her use of shape. You know, it really is true that when you look at everything is a shape, and you can see that through May's designs, and you can break it down and see how you can change that from drawing to embroidery or from drawing to print. Here's a book that May wrote. Here's another embroidered panel. Design is the very soul and essence of beautiful embroidery. That's a really good example of how you can see the sketch next to the finished work and see the process. As someone who loves needlework, I really did relish being able to have an insight like that into May's life. This is a dress of May's, and May actually designed and made the jewellery there in that display. This is about May's life from the First World War onwards. about May's rural life and about when she set up the Women's Institute locally and the way she kept on with politics and advocacy and giving back to the local community. So she helped to reopen the post office, she improved the local school, she provided a weekly soup kitchen, and she gifted families coal at Christmas. And then until her death in 1938, Morris lived contentedly with Mary Lobb at Kelmscott. She's buried in the family grave by St George's Church, near their beloved Oxfordshire home, which her father described as heaven on earth. May and Mary both were in the Women's Land Army. There's May at various times in her life. There's books by William Morris. May helped secure his legacy after his death by making sure a lot of his papers were published. That's an exhibitor's pass from the exhibition in 1924. Although May left Morris & Co. after her father's death, she continued to have embroidery commissions and write and be a freelance artist, and she taught. She co-founded the Women's Guild of Arts. This gave women the chance to be in a guild because the Artist Guild wouldn't admit women at that time. May's legacy is massively creative but also massively socio-political, and that's seen throughout her work that whenever she could give back to those less privileged, she did do. She was also aware that teaching means that the next generation can continue these crafts rather than them ebbing away. Here are some more designs by May as we continue through the exhibition. A design for gauntlet gloves for the Easter gloves for the bishop, and here's the gloves themselves, and another pair of really decorative embroidered gloves. This is for the front of an altarpiece. More grapes and vines, and here's a sculpture of May Morris. If you're hearing any bleeping, my husband knows I'm doing a voiceover and is bleeping upstairs. May Morris exhibition, Lady Lever. This is just some things that I did in my art journal and my opinion and a few little flower doodles at the bottom based on those repeated floral motifs. This is just to show my opinion and the thoughts that were raised. I had a little doodly go at like a black work design and a cross stitch design and wallpaper and embroidery based on birds, vines, florals, just to play with those ideas and the inspiration from the exhibition. I really enjoyed going to the exhibition. I really enjoyed touring the rest of the Lady Lever, but I'll put that in a separate video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting me and the channel. Please like, subscribe, comment. I hope you're having a lovely week and a wonderful day. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the exhibition with me. Bye bye.